Hey, what's going on everyone? Dennis here, EDC for Fun. Thanks for checking out the video. Today we're looking at a interesting knife from Gerber. This is the Gerber Asada. This is a similar knife to the Gerber Slim Sada as well as the Gerber Flat Iron. This is in the budget realm. These are right around $47, I think is what I saw them listed for. This one was actually a gift given to me from my brother-in-law, so very thankful to have this and happy to share with you guys my thoughts on it. So right off the bat, I think it's a really cool, really comfortable knife, and this is definitely a smallish, medium-sized knife. We'll go ahead and just do a quick comparison so you know what I'm talking about. Here's a PM2, which is on the larger side, and then here's a Para 3, which is on the smaller side. So you can see it's just a little bit bigger than the Para 3, and so I think that is perfectly adequate for EDC, just a little bit on the smaller side. Go ahead and grab a couple other measurements real quick before I get into some of my opinions, pros and cons about what I think about this knife. Overall length is going to be right around 7.5 inches. Cutting edge is going to be about 2 5/8, and the inner grip is going to be, that's from this point to this point, that's around 3 1/4. Go ahead and close this guy up and get you a closed length of 4 1/4, just kind of eyeballing. Apologize for my voice, it's a little bit hoarse right now. Hopefully you can hear me, it's not coming out too bad. I'll go ahead and grab a weight on this guy. Make sure we're zeroed, and 4.5 ounces. So not a lightweight, but also not a super tank either. And okay, so some of the materials, we've got 7CR on the blade. We've got steel frame lock, so steel on both sides. It does have an over travel stop here. And we have basically flow through construction, and we are running on bearings, and we got a little bit of jimping on that flipper tab right there. It fires out very nicely. I think the deployment is one of the strong suits of this knife. It's got a stiff detent, and so when you go to deploy it, even a light press will get that guy to fire right out. When the blade does come out, you are greeted with a beautiful stonewash. I really like the way they did the stonewash on this guy. It looks excellent. And you've got minimal branding up there, which is very much appreciated. And the blade just looks sick. Just a really cool cleaver design. We've got a plunge grind that's done really well. You can see where the light is shining off the angle. The plunge grind starts way back here, and so if you're looking at the knife this way, it does not get thick till you're out there, so you can sharpen this guy plenty of times, which is something that you're going to need with 7CR steel, not known for having the best edge retention. You do have this big ricasso area, which I think lends to some of that 4.5 ounce weight. And then you've got a really odd T9 pivot. You've got T6 body screws and clip screw. And I did take this guy apart and found that 2 of the screws were almost, they felt like they were permanently in there. I could probably get them out with some heat, but the Loctite that had been applied did not make it easy to take this guy apart. I did ruin 2 T6 bits trying to take this guy apart. I ended up just leaving, I think it was this screw and this screw, I don't know. I could not get it 100% completely torn down, but I was able to get it apart enough to get it cleaned up and just look at what was going on inside there and see the bearings and everything. Here's a look at our lockup. We're at like 60%, which is crazy. I'll talk about that here in a minute. But anyway, the overall, I think general, pro for this knife is the ergonomics. I think it feels really good in hand. I was doing some cutting with this guy, cutting some cardboard, cutting up some hoses and that kind of stuff. And man, it just, in hand, it works really, really well. You've got this hump back here, which goes into your palm very nicely. You've got another index point up here. Your hand just lands on it really, really well. I think it's super comfortable. You've got some chamfering on the show side here, which lends to the comfort, and all the way around, it's very nicely rounded. So a big pro on this guy, ergonomics. You can also choke up and get some fine work if you want to in there. So it does feel good in hand, and the opening deployment is very good. Now, that's pretty much where the pros stop for me anyway, because as you've probably seen several times now, I've tried to close this guy, and it is not easy to close, and that's due to a few different things. So one is, I pointed out that 60% lockup. There is a lot of tension on this lock bar here, and coupled with virtually no lock bar access on the show side scale makes getting the lock to disengage kind of a chore. You have to jam your thumb all the way in there because there's no relief. I'll show you something that has some good relief on it. If you look at, here's a Kubey Royal. You see how you can see the liner there? And so it doesn't take much at all to get your thumb in there and just give it a little press, and that blade just goes right home. This guy, nope. You actually have to jam your thumb in that open space, and even when you do that, it's so stiff that it takes a lot of effort to push it all the way over and get the lock to actually clear the blade tang so it can go close. Now, the other thing fighting against you, it has a late detent. So right now we're resting on the detent ball, and I mean, that's that's pretty crazy. Look at where the detent ball on this Kubey Royal is, right there. So if you can see, that's a pretty substantial difference. This guy is almost like half closed, and it's getting hung up on the detent ball. That's like really annoying, especially if you're somebody who likes to, you know, fidget with your knives or just appreciates a nice smooth close. It doesn't want to. And so sometimes it is a two-handed operation, which is pretty frustrating. While I've got it closed, go ahead and look at the top of the blade here. Even though the stonewash looks great, I think the top just kind of looks unfinished. There's no chamfering. There's really nothing going on there. It's plain and kind of ugly. If you look at this Kubey here, you can see we've got a little swedge there. You've got some chamfering along the corner of the spine on both sides. Just looks really good. Grab another Kubey here, and again, you can see we've got some chamfering across the spine there on both sides. Got a little bit of, that's not really a swedge, but let's see. This is a Ned Foss Black Mamba, and you can see it's very slight, but it's got basically a little bit of rounding there on the edge. Now, maybe you're somebody who likes to use a ferro rod, and maybe you can get some appreciation out of being able to strike that against a ferro rod and throw some sparks, but that's not me. So the branding on the clip doesn't need to be there. I think it looks goofy, which is funny because, I mean, that's about as minimal as you can get on the blade. Little logo, cool, good to go. And then you look at the other side, bam. And that's going to be, when it's in your pocket, you're going to have that Gerber hanging out there. I don't know, maybe some people like that. I definitely don't. I do like the pocket clip, though. I think the pocket clip itself functions really well. I do like this style a lot. It's not a super deep carry, but it's also doesn't give you a ton sticking out there. In and out of the pocket, it works really good. It's not too tight. And yeah, so I think the pocket clip is actually good. Just don't like that branding on there. I do think the over travel stop looks pretty cool. The way they've got that little hash kind of pattern in there looks nice. It does have a captive kind of D-shaped pivot in there, which was cool. And it is running on bearings, which is also cool. But again, you lose even though it's got an excellent deployment action, you lose that on the close because it's just not reliably getting the benefit of being on bearings and everything because of the strong lock bar, the lack of lock bar access, and that really late detent. Okay, what else did I want to say about this guy? Oh yeah, the price. So, I mean, at first glance, 40 something dollars for a budget knife, kind of seems par for the course. But when you consider the three that I've pulled out, the Kubi Royal, the Kubi Doris, and the Ned Foss Black Mamba, um, this one was like 30 something. This one was like 30 something. I think these are like 30 something. And these all have D2 steel. This has 7CR. The best thing 7CR has going for it is that it's stainless. So D2 not stainless, but it's also not like instant rust or anything like that. And what you gain with D2 is just substantial performance in terms of edge retention and toughness that you're just not going to get with 7CR. 7CR is basically modified 440. It's a Chinese version that has some supplemental ingredients in there that don't lend themselves to the qualities that you would want in a knife steel. Instead, it just makes it cheaper to produce. So you get an inferior steel and you're paying more for it. That coupled with the lock bar access and all those kinds of issues there just kind of makes it a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you want to get something like one of these for 30 something bucks versus this one, which is almost 50 bucks? Especially from a company like Gerber, you would think that they would have stuff like that figured out. I'm not sure why that's an issue. I have heard good things about the Slim SATA, so maybe I don't know, maybe this is unique to the USADA. I don't know. But as somebody who would be a little more interested in Gerber stuff, especially considering they do have some American made knives. I'm a little leery to dip my toe into that pool just because even on this guy, there's just issues that shouldn't be in this price range. Maybe if it was 20 bucks, if this was a $20 knife, I think I'd probably let stuff like that slide. It would still be frustrating and annoying, but then it's like, oh, well, it's just a $20 knife, so you get what you pay for. On an almost $50 knife, I don't think that's acceptable at all. So anyway, I don't want this to turn into me bashing this knife. Like I said, it was a gift, and I am very appreciative of it. It is, as a cutting tool, it does its job. I definitely enjoyed the ergonomics and using this guy to cut up some cardboard and some hoses and my usual kind of testing. But other than that, it's not something that, I would say, hey, you should go out and buy this knife. If you have one, it doesn't mean it's trash. It's certainly not a bad knife. I just think that for the price, you could certainly get something better. So anyways, guys, that's my thoughts on it. Leave me a like and a comment, please. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe if you're not already. And other than that, have a fantastic day. God bless you guys. See ya.